Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or morning or night, depending on you watching this in the not live, which is pretty much no one, because I don't tweet out the live link. This is Nothing Explained, the podcast where I will explain nothing. I think that, you can't explain a negative, so I guess my only other option is to explain everything, but that's not possible because I am just me, a person of very limited perspective, just like everyone else. So the chances of me actually explaining everything are zero. Therefore, the chances of me explaining nothing are even less. But, I guess that's just, we got to try, I suppose that's the point. But anyway, as a consequence of that, nothing I say here on the podcast should be construed as advice. I don't give medical advice, legal advice, or financial advice, because advice is a legal term and it means that you have permission from the system to do so. And that if someone takes your advice, they may or may not be held liable for that consequences of said advice. I give it, what do I do? Opinions and stuff. Anyway. Recommendations. So it is nearing the middle of November, and this is my 21st episode, and it's also the end of our season of the WeAreDenver podcast network and group and crew artist collective. And so we're going to take a little break for the holidays and regroup and come back into season 2 like so much stronger. And so we'll see you afterwards when we get back, but as I have been doing the last couple shows, I want to do a little bit of a week in review just because the news is so nuts, and I don't want to do like a whole lot of news, but I do think it's notable to point out just how crazy the news is. And as I pointed out last week, it seems like every day the news is so big that it erases the news from the day before. So let's see what happened last week. We had another mass shooting. Very interesting. That was in Texas. A guy shot up a school, and interestingly, he was stopped by a guy with a gun, and they ran him down with a car, and I believe he was even killed by that guy. There is a couple of witnesses who are suggesting that this did not go down as advertised. That's pretty standard. Other big news, there's at least 30 sealed indictments, most of which are in Virginia, and you might not know what that means, but in federal court, if they have some sort of big case and they don't want it to be spoiled by the news getting out that the case is happening, they will seal the indictment, meaning that it shows up on the docket, the order of operations for the court, but it doesn't show the names of who's involved, like who's versus who. So there are 30 sealed indictments, and why this would be important to someone who has never heard this before is the Manafort indictment and his other 3 friends, with regard to like the Russia collusion kind of investigation that seems to be less about the president's election and more about poor lobbying choices. Those guys were all sealed indictments. So there are 30 sealed indictments at the federal level in Virginia, and I was just reading today that there's actually a lot more nationwide. So who knows? Something's up. Big, awesome, amazing news. A new chamber has been discovered in the Great Pyramid of Giza. So they used muon detectors, which is basically like a high-energy particle, and they just kind of measured the speed of the particles entering the detector, and based on the differences between particles, they decided there is a giant void, another giant void that has never been entered in modern history in the pyramid, and it is theoretically the same size as the Grand Chamber. It's just a little bit higher up, so I presume they're going to start digging for an entrance here pretty soon, so that's going to be fun. Who knows what's in there? The sex abuse scandal is obviously just boiling away. People are piling up. Jokes on the internet are tending to suggest that by the time this whole thing's over, that the award ceremonies will be empty. In Hollywood, that is. Hollywood is really taking a hitting. Kind of big notables there. There's a couple of victims of Harvey Weinstein who are saying he had hired ex-Israeli Mossad kind of people to work in the background and suppress them going public and threaten them from going public. Louis C.K. has now been caught up, and he seems to have be kind of a lashing out, kind of a weird sexual habit that seemed to be coming from like what I would assume would be like a very weak constitution. He was definitely in a poor place when that kind of stuff was going on. But there was some stuff in his show that he was writing that kind of hinted to that kind of thing. So it's interesting that he seems to be pretty self-aware of the issue, which is one of the first people to like really own up to this kind of thing. So the big news for Donna Brazile last week, she was saying that Hillary Clinton had control of the Democratic Party long time before she actually won the primary. And, of course, all the conservative Republican types jumped on Twitter and said that she said it was rigged, but she never used the word rigged. So she was very public this week and making sure that everyone knew that she did not use the word rigged, even though I think that seems to be the case. The whole Middle East is a boiling pot these days. We've had all that shakeup with the Saudi royal family and all of the people in charge in Saudi Arabia, and now they're putting some major pressure on Lebanon. There's kind of Saudi and Israel seem to be kind of teaming up in that regard. There's all kinds of crazy stuff happening over there. We're looking at that. If that sounds interesting to you, Trump is also using lots of big bad words in the attempt to squash North Korea. I haven't done a lot of looking into that, but I'm pretty confident, as usual, the things being said in the mainstream is not actually what's happening there. Not that I have anything to offer to that, but who knows? It's a weird and wild, crazy world out there, guys. Bitcoin is down from its all-time high last week of 7,500 to 6,100, which all of the people who are freaking out about Bitcoin are going to say that, oh, see, I told you. But it's actually just kind of a correction. But the reason it's going to be a big correction, mostly because there's just a bunch of people who are playing it like a stock market. And so everybody sells, everybody buys, everybody sells, everybody buys. But I'm expecting it to drop to like even below 5,000 based on all the people I'm watching. And then it should start cranking right back up again. And we'll see new highs well above 7,500. So that's my prediction for that. WikiLeaks released Vault 8, which is a new batch of CIA I'd call them cybercrime tools, but, the CIA is just a bunch of sketchballs. And a lot of what they do is online, and if you are curious about that, check out Vault 7 and Vault 8 from WikiLeaks. China has announced that they are instituting a citizen trust score. Oh, man, that's not going to go well. So basically, you will be rated on how good you are at being a Chinese citizen, and I imagine your ability to get services and things from the state will be determined by your ability to talk nicely about the state, which is I wouldn't be surprised to see that kind of like leak a little bit worldwide in a lot of ways. And there's a Black Mirror episode on that which is super creepy, so I highly recommend that. A new kind of upgraded version of the plague is currently expanding all too fast for comfort in Africa, which seems to be rooted in this old tradition in Madagascar where they dig up their relatives and have a dance around the fire. And there's a whole bunch of pressure on RT and Sputnik, which are essentially Russian news services, to be shut down in America, which would be the equivalent of Russia deciding that ABC and NBC cannot broadcast in Russia, which is dumb in my opinion because either you have free speech or you don't. The individual should be responsible for judging the content. And if your citizens are too stupid to determine the truth, then maybe you should worry about your education system and not foreign agents broadcasting in the airwaves. But hey, I'm a total, what do you call those guys? Libertarian in that regard. So, and then big fun stuff is it looks like all the action we were seeing in Antarctica recently, the largest iceberg in modern history had been calved off of Antarctica last week. I think it was called the C shelf or B shelf. I should have written that down. But basically a chunk of ice the size of New Jersey, I think it was, broke away from Antarctica, and everyone was, the science committee was talking about it. But it looks like it turns out to be like a bunch of undersea volcanic activity. So there was a bunch of news about that. But anyway, it's a crazy world out there. So I'm kind of excited to see what happens next week. Maybe I'll do a little update, just the weekly updates. I'll take 10 minutes and just do a quick cell phone video because it'd be kind of nice to keep up on. I do enjoy the weekly update. But I won't be back till January 1st-ish, the first week of January, after the new year. So let's get to the heart of things, the meat. Today I wanted to do bad words, verbal taboo. And, wait, let me reach over here. I'm going to turn myself up. I can't hear myself. Testing, that's a little better. So first off, warning to those of you out there who have weak constitutions towards verbal vomiting. I would suggest you tune out now because I'm going to talk about all the bad words and I'm going to say them all multiple times. So if you have a problem with curse words, bad words, offensive words, coarse words, profanity, foul language, blasphemous, vulgar or lewd, explicatives, swear words, that is, 4-letter words, I highly recommend that you tune out, because that's what we're going to talk about the whole time. So let's start with the F-bomb. Fuck.
Perhaps one of the most interesting words in the English language today is the word fuck. Out of all of the English words that begin with the letter F, fuck is the only word that is referred to as the F word. It's the one magical word. Just by its sound can describe pain, pleasure, hate, and love. Fuck, as most words in the English language, is derived from German, the word flicken, which means to strike. In English, fuck falls into many grammatical categories. As a transitive verb, for instance, John fucked Shirley. As an intransitive verb, Shirley fucks. Its meaning's not always sexual. It can be used as an adjective, such as, John's doing all the fucking work. As part of an adverb, Shirley talks too fucking much. As an adverb enhancing an adjective, Shirley is fucking beautiful. As a noun, I don't give a fuck. As part of a word, abso-fucking-lutely, or in-fucking-credible. And, as almost every word in a sentence, fuck the fucking fuckers. As you must realize, there aren't too many words with the versatility of fuck, as in these examples describing situations such as fraud, I got fucked at the used car lot. Dismay, oh fuck it. Trouble, I guess I'm really fucked now. Aggression, don't fuck with me, buddy. Difficulty, I don't understand this fucking question. Inquiry, who the fuck was that? Dissatisfaction, I don't like what the fuck is going on here. Incompetence, he's a fuck off. Dismissal, why don't you go outside and play hide and go fuck yourself? I'm sure you can think of many more examples. With all of these multi-purpose applications, how can anyone be offended when you use the word? We say, use this unique, flexible word more often in your daily speech. It will identify the quality of your character immediately. Say it loudly and proudly. Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. Hey, cut it out. We don't want any advertisements. That's retarded. That's rude. Those fuckers. So, hey, it's the reason I kind of wanted to get into this is I was hanging out with some friends this weekend, and the F-bomb had come up, and we decided it was the Swiss Army word, which I thought was very appropriate. And then the other thing that kind of got me started on that was that the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council has decided that the word fuck is now part of the common French spoken language. Excuse my French. And can be used in French broadcasting. And this decision came after 2 complaints came into the CBSC. One was a clip of Madonna swearing during the Women's March, which she also got into some controversy because she said she thought about blowing up the White House, as I believe. And then also an excerpt from a Green Day concert where Billie Joe Armstrong, the lead singer, was using the word fuck. So someone complained to the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council, and they decided that it's no big deal for French people to say, which is really interesting in my opinion, you know? Kind of like prophetic. Excuse my French. So anyway, I think it's interesting. Oh, wait. Let's go with, since we're talking about broadcasting, the words you cannot say on air are based on a George Carlin skit, I will play, which is interesting because he says you can't say them on air, but then the actual law was written because of his skit saying what words you can't say. And I'm going to
cryptocurrency is taking off as a retirement
that down and let that play for a second. What the fuck just happened? Oh, God. YouTube is the worst. Fuck those motherfuckers. Okay, skipping.
Words. I thank you for hearing my words. I want to tell you something about words that I I think is important. I love, as I say, they're my work, they're my play, they're my passion. Words are all we have, really. We have thoughts, but thoughts are fluid, you know. And then we assign a word to a thought, and we're stuck with that word for that thought. So be careful with words. I like to think, yeah, the same words, you know, that hurt can heal. It's a matter of how you pick them. There are some people that aren't into all the words. There are some people that would have you not use certain words. Yeah, there are 400,000 words in the English language, and there are 7 of them you can't say on television. What a ratio that is. 399,993 to 7. They must really be bad. They'd have to be outrageous to be separated from a group that large. All of you over here, you 7. Bad words. That's what they told us they were, remember? That's a bad word. No bad words, bad thoughts, bad intentions, and words. You know the 7, don't you, that you can't say on television? Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits, huh? Those are the heavy 7. Those are the ones that'll infect your soul, curve your spine, and keep the country from winning the war. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. Wow. And tits doesn't even belong on the list, you know? Yeah. It's such a friendly sounding word. Sounds like a nickname, right? Hey, tits, come here, man. Hey, tits. Hey. Hey, tits, meet toots. Toots, tits, tits, toots, man. Sounds like a snack, doesn't it, huh? Yes, I know, it is, right, a snack. But I don't mean your sexist snack. I mean new Nabisco tits. The new cheese tits. And corn tits and pizza tits and sesame tits, onion tits, tater tits. Yeah. Bet you can't eat just one. That's true, I usually switch off. But I mean, that word does not belong on the list. Actually, none of the words belong on the list, but you can understand why some of them are there. I mean, I'm not completely insensitive to people's feelings. You know, I can dig why some of those words got on the list. Like cocksucker and motherfucker, those are heavyweight words, you know. Oh, there's a lot going on there, man. Besides the literal translation and the emotional feeling, I mean, they're just busy words. There's a lot of syllables to contend with. And those Ks, those are aggressive sounds. They jump out at you, man. Cocksucker, motherfucker, cocksucker. It's like an assault on you, you know? So I can dig that. Now, we mentioned shit earlier, of course, and 2 of the other 4-letter Anglo-Saxon words are piss and cunt, which go together, of course, but forget that. Little accidental humor I throw there. Piss and cunt. The reason that piss and cunt are on the list is that a long time ago, certain ladies said, those are the 2 I'm not going to say. I don't mind fucking shit, but P and C are out. P and C are out. Which led to such stupid sentences as, okay, you fuckers, I'm going to tinkle now. And of course, the word fuck. The word fuck, I don't really, well, here's some more accidental humor. I don't really want to get into that now. Because I think it takes too long. But I do mean that. I mean, I think the word fuck is a very important word. It's the beginning of life, and yet it's a word we use to hurt one another quite often. And people much wiser than I have said, I'd rather have my son watch a film with two people making love than two people trying to kill one another. And I, of course, can agree. It's a great sentiment. I wish I knew who said it first, and I agree with that. But I'd like to take it a step further. I'd like to substitute the word fuck for the word kill in all those movie cliches we grew up with, right? Okay, Sheriff, we're gonna fuck you now. But we're gonna fuck you slow. So maybe next year I'll have a whole fucking rap on that word. I hope so. There are two-way words. Those are the 7 you can never say on television. Under any circumstances, you just cannot say them. Ever, not even clinically. You cannot weave them in on the panel with Doc and Ed and Johnny. I mean, it's just impossible. Forget those 7. They're out. But there are some two-way words, those double-meaning words. Remember the ones you giggled at in 6th grade? And the cock crowed 3 times. Hey, the cock crowed 3 times. Hey, it's in the Bible. There are some two-way words, like it's okay for Kurt Gowdy to say, Roberto Clemente has 2 balls on him. Yeah. But he can't say, I think he hurt his balls on that play, Tony, don't you? He's holding them. He must have hurt them, by God. And the other two-way word that goes with that one is prick. It's okay if it happens to your finger. Yes, you can prick your finger, but don't finger your prick. No.
Yeah, rest in peace, George. Oh, I forgot to reorder the playlist. Pause. Yeah, so bad words. And so I'm going to do this list again because I kind of want to cover some of the stuff that kind of jumped out at me in my research here. So bad words have lots of words. There are lots of bad words, and there are lots of things to describe what makes a word bad. So a word can be obscene. It can be a curse word. It can be offensive. It can be coarse. It can be profane, foul, blasphemous, vulgar, lewd, choice, people using choice words, expletives, and swear words, or 4-letter words. So I thought of all the 4-letter words I could think of. Shit, fuck, cunt, cock, damn, dick, twat, crap, fart, turd, and hell. And I did want to say that I think that George Carlin's skit was played live on KPFA in Berkeley. I'm pretty sure that's where that happened. And that's when the FCC cracked down and made the 7 dirty words that you can't say illegal to actually say the 7 dirty words. So, expletive. That's an adjective or an adverb that does not contribute to the propositional meaning of a sentence, but it's used to intensify its emotional force. Examples of this: bloody in Britain. That's bloody beautiful. Goddamn, like, and then fucking, like that's fucking retarded, and wretched. Although the use of the wretched there would be like, oh, that's fucking wretched, which would be awful. So you'd need, he's wretched bad at it. Or like wicked. Oi. It's wicked. Wicked bad. Profane would be, the original definition of profane is outside of the temple, a desecration, lacking in, or it has a secular purpose. And it's interesting that all of these words, a lot of them are going to be, you're pretty much your only, the categories that all your bad words are fitting into is basically like the church doesn't like it, or the state doesn't like it, or your family doesn't like it. You know, like social order kinds of things. So profane gets into the church and, you know, taking the Lord's name in vain. Jesus Christ. And blasphemy is in the same kind of general genre, insulting or showing contempt, lack of reverence to a deity, or any lack of reverence to something sacred. Vulgar, meaning common, coarse, unrefined, low social class. So if you wanted to insult someone for their lack of education, you could point to their vulgar speech. In a George Eliot novel, one character could be vulgar for talking about money, a second because he criticizes the first for doing so, and a third for being fooled by the excessive refinement of the second. which just goes to show you it's a slippery slope out there. Lewd would be crude or offensive in a sexual way, which is very interesting, like lewd speech, because the vast majority of swear words, bad words, all these things like tend to be like kind of like sexual things. Like if you want to inform someone that he's bad, you could call him a dick or a cock. Like, you are a penis, sir. So apparently penises are bad, which I have a problem with, you know? Like if you're calling some dude a cocksucker, like you don't really, like, you don't want to inform the like youth out there that, I'm like, how did that phone sound get in here? I don't see any phones. But if you want to inform someone that they're awful, I wouldn't really want to call them a penis or a vagina because I like penises and vaginas, you know? I don't think those two things should be related. And I think that the most interesting way of calling bad words is swear words, because swearing is just making a solemn statement. So it's kind of interesting that they got that term swear. In fact, I really couldn't find the connection as to how swear words got the name swear words. So let's do a little swearing around the world. British swear words. The strongest possible swear words you can use are cunt, fuck, and motherfucker. That's the worst case. And this is based on a poll of British people. Below that, strong words: bastard, beaver, beef curtains, a bell end, a blood clat, clunge, colk, dick, dickhead, fanny, flaps, gash, knob, minge, prick, punani, pussy, snatch, and twat. And you'll notice that like the vast majority of those are either penis and vagina words. There were a couple of them that I didn't recognize, so I looked those up. Bell end is the head of a penis. A buffoon. A contemptible manon or moron. Clunge and colk are both basically vag words. Clunge is a vag. Colk is a penis that looks like a turkey neck. So apparently unsightly penis. And interesting, in that whole list of British swear words, I didn't see wanker. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's used as idiot. Other lesser words that I didn't recognize: a munter, M-U-N-T-E-R, the ugliest possible. Coyote ugly would be how we use that here. So ugly, I had to chew my arm off to get out the next morning. Feck, F-E-C-K. It's a nice way of saying kind of like fuck, but it has none of like the negative connotations. It's not sexual or anything. You could be like, oh, feck, and it's not offensive at all. You're just like, oh, darn. Oh, shoot. Bullocks. That's the bullocks. Like, you know, that's how the way the cookie crumbles. This is a bad deal. This is shit. A bint, B-I-N-T. A whore or a bitch. It's also the Arab slang for woman. So if you're an Arab and you want to like talk bad to a woman, apparently bint is the word to go for there. Minger is very ugly with non-gender. It was Urban Dictionary quoted as falling out of the ugly tree and hitting every branch. A git, G-I-T, childishly ignorant. A cow was just you're fat, you're a big cow. Bugger is essentially referring to sodomy, or bugger off, fuck that, bugger that, fuck that, or a bugger stole it. So that would be someone who sucks. And of course, like bloody is kind of the swear word for Britain too. It's extremely common, so much so that it's almost considered not offensive. Oh, bloody hell. So an interesting, let's see. Oh, wait, no, I want to get into Irish and then I'll back up to that guy. Irish people are particularly foul-mouthed. For example, if they want you to fuck off, they might tell you to get pissed, but getting pissed is actually getting drunk. But even more interestingly is that cunt is a very friendly term there, referring to a fellow or a mate. A bright, proper cunt. Manky, unclean and dirty. A bogger, a person from the country. like dirty, wet bogs, apparently. Someone who might track a bunch of dirt into town. That would be the American version of redneck, supposedly. Also known as muckshits, or muckshites. It's probably shites. Clackers refers to testicles. A double banger is a butterface. Essentially a double bagger. As in, you know, everything looks good except for the face. So in order to go after it, you need to put a bag over their head. A double bagger. A flange, vagina, fuckhole, low social standing. Knob jockey is a homosexual. A pikey is a gypsy. You might remember that from Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. A sky pilot, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard, which is just a general insult insult. So you just call someone a sky pilot. Apparently that's not good. A townie would be like a American version of a yuppie. Like if you're from like somebody from the town, like a townie shows up like kind of just a ritzy jerk face. And a gombeen, scam artist, referring to like kind of the like scummy used car salesman. So back to the United States. Kind of an interesting aspect of the use of the word fuck is fuck you. Because in no way are you saying that I want to fuck you, because that's kind of a compliment. Like, oh, that's a good looking person there. I might be interested in having intercourse with them. But you wouldn't tell them, you would say I want to fuck you, but you wouldn't say fuck you, because that's more in the terms of like, go fuck yourself. Or like, everyone should not like you. Fuck you. And the closest use of this would be like curse you. Curse you, fiend. But that has like an implied I, like I am cursing you. But that's not the case for fuck you. That I fuck you. I fuck you. That's like the Russian version. But anyway, it's kind of more of a piss off, but worse. And you're kind of, and generally like just hoping. The curse is that like, I hope the world fucks you over, bro. So an article on the New Yorker references from March was referencing a study in which performance on just in general performance is increased by the use of swear words. They had people riding a bike and then like a hand testing, like a hand squeezer guy. And apparently they were getting a 4% increase by using swear words during the exercise compared to like not using swear words where their performance was not increased. Wow, this is going awfully fast. It took me a long time to put this list together. I feel like I've just like missed something. But anyway, like all these dirty words, they all kind of have this context of social order or religious, like against the church and against your family and against the state, which I thought it was interesting that George Carlin there said that's the kind of word that would prevent your country from winning the war. Because that used to be like the thing, man, like especially like World War II, loose lips sink ships. The idea that you would do something to harm God and country. That was like that was as bad as it got. You were truly an awful person in those cases. But both the state and the church are much maligned due to their bad behavior. So we tend not to care about talking bad about those things anymore because those things are responsible for vast majority of the trouble we see these days. Religion being like not a spiritual practice, just merely a social construct, and the state being in a lot of ways even worse. They run around picking fights with people, no real meaning there. So and for me, like this whole kind of thing just starts around the idea of like, I think it's more about intent. Like if someone's going to come at me with bad intent, then I will accept that intent and try and deal with it. But the use of the word has no real meaning to me. I don't care. I can maybe infer some meaning, but I'm looking for the meaning of the word and the intent. But I'm not actually caring about what the actual word used is, which is why I have no real problems with cuss words. I think that an explicative is something that is emotional filler. So like if it's important, it might be a proper use to use an explicative. It might be a really good fucking idea to use the word fuck in some certain circumstances. So of course this is going to come up in the question as to whether or not you children should be using the word fuck. Is it okay for a child to hear shit? And I think the important thing is that words are tools, and you can't use a word badly, or a poor use of the word is the real issue. It's not the fact that the word is bad, it's the use of the word that's bad. So if a child, which in most children would have not a very full grasp of the world, they might not really understand the scale to which things can go bad or be good. You know, like this is fucked, or wow, that's fucking amazing. They might not really have any real grasp on like how bad it gets or how good it gets. So their use of the word is probably not going to really capture the actual situation because they haven't been in many situations with which they need to describe. So that's the thing, like sit your kids down and say, words are tools, man. And until you know how to use them, there's no real point in using them. To as the old saying goes, to a child with a hammer, everything is a nail. Which reminds me of a story. I had a friend way back in the day, and she spent a lot of time out at night clubbing and such, but not clubbing. She was a visual artist, so she was there playing visuals over DJs and stuff. And she was a single mom, somewhat controversial person in general, but she didn't have much choice as far as babysitting and stuff, and so she would just bring her kids to, and it wasn't really out at the club, it's more like private parties and warehouses and things where there was no one really caring if you brought your kid, or like no one was going to stop you, or someone might talk shit to you, but no one was going to call the cops and say there's a kid here. But anyway, his gig was that he just liked cuss, and when he was a really young kid, everyone thought it's funny, and so he got the name Cuss Kid. Like, seriously, like, from age 5 to like maybe 9 or 10, he was known as the Cuss Kid. Oh, I hear Cuss Kid is here. And that's because he would just walk up to people and be like, fuck you, and flip them off and walk away. And people thought it was funny because you never see a little kid saying that. But as she and I got to be friends, this kid was in my life a lot. And I definitely had to sit him down at one point. And I was like, listen, it used to be funny, but now you're getting old enough that people are going to assume that you know what you're talking about. And so if you're telling people to fuck off, they're going to take you seriously. And like, don't be surprised if you get smacked upside the face one of these days. I'm pretty sure he did, actually. But anyway, I had a falling out. I couldn't actually tell you how that all came out. Maybe he doesn't even use cuss words anymore because he like just wore it all out. He's like, yeah, that was like first grade. Well, anyway, so we've come to an interesting time in the world, in all things considered. But with regard to the use of words, we see lots of changing attitude towards words. As noted at the beginning of my little podcast here, that it is now okay to say bad words or the word fuck in a French context on the air. And so we see lots of like changing things. Good example of this, fag. The original definition of fag was actually a bundle of sticks. In Britain, it used as a meaning for cigarette. And season 13, episode 12 of South Park, titled The F Word, explores the word fag as the meaning more of like annoying. And in their particular case, they were referencing Harley biker guys who are like on their really loud bikes and rev it up for no reason, or a BMW driver who doesn't use a turn signal. And then the homosexual community seizes the opportunity to cast off this word as no longer being bad in terms of being homosexual, which I completely agree with. Like, and in a very similar way, you have fags referring to themselves as fags. And I know this is true because I work for one of Denver's largest gay clubs, but it's used like bitch, like friendly bitch. Oh, shut up, bitch. Me and the fags are going out tonight. So it's an interesting case that we have of like re-owning this word. Like it's people say like they want to call you something, call you a bad word. So you and your social group decide to start calling each other the bad word to kind of like take the bite out of it. And I think that that's a pretty good way to go. And I don't really condone the non-use of the word. Like I don't like the idea of words you can't ever use. Because I think that leaves the power in it. It's still like a bad word. And the question is whether or not it's useful. If there's some sort of word where you can, it's the definition of the word, how it's common parlance, like how you and all of your social circle use a word. And as long as it has a well-defined word, even within inside of a social group, then someone else outside of it doesn't realize that's what it's being used at. As long as the context is delivered properly, the intent is delivered properly, then I think you're good to go. But that being said, there is no more controversial word. Well, actually, before I said that, retarded is kind of an interesting situation, too, because retarded used to mostly refer to people with Down syndrome, and then they decided that was a bad they. I don't know who they are. But it was essentially the social order came to describe retarded as a word you couldn't use to describe anyone. Or you definitely couldn't say to your friend, don't do that, that's retarded, because retarded is then relaying back to the person who would typically have Down syndrome or some sort of disability. But the actual word retarded in a non-disability type context is to be slowed down or turned back, which really is like Down syndrome. They run a little bit slower. They've got an internal clock that runs a little slow. So retarded had a real meaning when they first started describing people with Down syndrome as retarded. But then you get into the point where like you're calling your friends retarded and they're just being stupid, but you don't want to malign people out there who can't help but be a little bit slow. And so that has taken on a very negative connotation in recent social status order and things. But beyond that, the most offensive word you can use in the whole world is the N-word. And obviously I am not qualified at all to speak on this, so we're going to defer to Chris Rock.
So the question remains to say, can white people say nigga? And the answer is to say, not really. Oh, there's some exceptions like, fuck me harder, nigga. A lot of white women trying not to laugh in front of their husbands right now. Honey, I was in college. I had to see what it was about. He made me say it. But the question remains to say, can white people say nigga? And the answer is to say, not really. But wait a minute. There's one exception. There's one exception. There's one instance where white people can say nigga. And I'm gonna let it out tonight. I'm gonna let it out here in Johannesburg. The one time that white people can say nigga. And white people are like, this is what I paid for. It's a fucking great night now. The one time white people can say nigga. And here goes, listen closely. Because I may never say this shit again. The one time white people can say nigga. Okay. If it's Christmas Eve, and it's between 4:30 and 4:49 in the morning. If you white, and you on your way to Toys R Us to get your kid the last Transformer doll. And right before you walk into Toys R Us, some black person runs up beside you, smacks you in the head with a brick, knocks you to the ground, stomps you in the face. Take that, you crack ass motherfucker. Take that, you crack ass motherfucker. Take that, you crack ass motherfucker. Motherfucker. Take that. River dances on your head. Take that, you crack ass motherfucker. Crack ass motherfucker. Crack ass motherfucker. Take that, you crack ass motherfucker. Takes your money, pisses on you, and runs away. If you white, at that moment you can say, somebody stop that nigga! Matter of fact, if you white and that happens to you, you can say nigga for a whole month. But you gotta walk around with the police report in your pocket. In case any black people catch you saying nigga, the police report will act as your freedom papers. Hey, I heard you saying nigga, let me see your fucking papers. Give me the papers, show me the papers! Christmas Eve. 4:48. You just made it, motherfucker. Pissed on you. I hope they catch that nigga.
Yeah, so there you go. Chris Rock. And the basic answer being no, which I think is fair. The issue that really is just kind of definition of how things, the use of the word. And in that particular case, there is no real racial equivalent. You heard him say the word cracker there, and I've never been called a cracker. But even if it happened, it just wouldn't have the same context because the N-word is basically meant that, like, I can do anything I want to you because you're a lower class of person and all my buddies are going to back me up. And there just isn't that case for white people. Like, there's no thing you can call a white person that says that I can do anything I want to you and my buddies are going to back me up. So until such time as there's some sort of parity, then maybe that word, the usage can be loosened up. But on a more official term, and to finish up the podcast, we will defer to Ta-Naishi Coates and words that don't belong to everyone. Maybe. Play, buddy. There we go.
Last week, Northwestern had this concert with Lil Uzi Vert. He uses the N-word profusely, like a ton, and there was an email sent out to students who went to this concert saying, you don't have a right to use this word, which I 100% agree with. Like, as a white person, I don't have any right. I haven't, until reparations are paid, until there's some sort of giving back, there's no right. But what do you say to, I don't know what to do when I hear my friends using this word in a song. I don't know what to do when it's all the time.
Words don't have meaning without context, okay? My wife refers to me as honey. That's accepted and okay between us. If we were walking down the street together and a strange woman referred to me as honey, that wouldn't be acceptable. The understanding is I have some sort of relationship with my wife. Hopefully I have no relationship with this strange woman. When I was young and I used to go see my family in Philadelphia where my dad was from, they will all call him Billy. His name is William Paul Coates. No one in Baltimore called him Billy, and had I referred to my father as Billy, that probably would have been a problem. That's because the relationship between myself and my dad is not the same as the relationship between my dad and his mother and his sisters who he grew up with, right? We understand that. It's the same thing with words within the African American community or within any community. My wife, with her girlfriend, will use the word bitch. I do not join in. I don't, say, hey, I don't do that. I don't do that. And perhaps more importantly, I don't have a desire to do it. You understand? A while ago, Dan Savage was gonna have this show that he was going to call Hey Faggot. I'm not gonna yell faggot at Dan Savage. That's not my relationship with the LGBT community. And I understand that, and I'm okay with that. I don't have a desire to, yell out the word, faggot. I just don't have that. The question one must ask, if that's accepted and normal for groups of people, we understand that, it's normal actually for groups to use words that are derogatory in an ironic fashion. Why is there so much hand-wringing when black people do it? Black people are basically, however you feel about it, they're not outside of the normal rules and laws for humanity. I had a good friend who used to have this cabin in upstate New York, which he referred to as the white trash cabin. He was white. I would never refer to that cabin. I would never tell him I'm coming to your white trash cabin. I just wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? I think you understand why I wouldn't do it. The question one must ask is why so many white people have difficulty extending things that are basic laws, of how human beings interact to black people. And I think I know why. When you're white in this country, you're taught that everything belongs to you. You think you have a right to everything. You have a right to go where you, and you're conditioned this way. It's not, because your hair is a texture or your skin is light. It's the fact that the laws and the culture tell you this. You have a right to go where you want to go, do what you want to do, be however, and people just got to accommodate themselves to you. So here comes this word that, you feel like you invented. And now somebody will tell you how to use the word that you invented. Why can't I use it? Everyone else gets to use it. You know what? That's racism that I don't get to use it. That's racist against me. I have to inconvenience myself and hear this song and I can't sing along? How come I can't sing along? You know what I mean? And I think, for white people, I think the experience of being a hip-hop fan and not being able to use the word nigga is actually very, very insightful. It will give you just a little peek into the world of what it means to be black. Because because to be black is to walk through the world and watch people doing things that you cannot do, that you can't join in and do, you know? And so I think there's actually a lot to be learned from refraining.
And there you have it. I hope you feel more prepared for the use of bad words in your life and work. So this has been the end of Nothing Explained, my podcast, and also the end of Season 1. We'll see you after the new year when we return. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, week, month, holiday season, and